Ladies and gentlemen, we have the winners for Achievement in Production Design for The Shape of Water, and they'll come on in this order: Paul Denham Osterberry, Shane Vio, and Jeffrey A. Melvin. I'm going to start down here with 278, go over to 177.
I'd love to hear a little bit about the process of how you arrived at what looks to be a kind of faded, Piaf, Parisian color palette mixed with that incredible noir sensibility. How in the world did you put those together?
And gentlemen, actually, before you start, can I have you all move up to the microphone?
There's a minor detail.
There you go.
Well, it all really started with Guillermo. You know, he has a real visual eye and lots of good reference. So he had already picked, before we even started, a building that we used for the exterior, which set the tone. It was a late Victorian building. And from there, referenced a movie, The Red Shoes, for an arch window, and then we all worked together to develop that. And, you know, these guys brought beautiful wallpaper, kind of like that, to bring the scales into the room. And the palette is a very Guillermo thing. The first thing we did was deal with the palette. So that's why the movie's so color coordinated.
And we're going over to 177, and then I thought there was somebody in the back. 127.
Over here.
To your left.
To your left. Hi. From the CBC.
Hey.
Hi.
Yay.
Congratulations
Go
on your
Canada.
win. Yeah. Over here.
Oh,
you spoke about your Toronto team in your acceptance speech, and we'd just like to know how significant it was to have a team from Toronto working with you, and how it feels right now.
I have 35 years in the business now and worked in Toronto almost exclusively. So I've worked with and watched the business grow in Toronto and go from children's television to Academy Award-winning films. It started with Good Will Hunting, Chicago, now us. We have world-class technicians, and we want to keep it that way and keep going. Build more studios, and we can do more.
The other thing, too, is that what's amazing about this year with trades is that Toronto, above and beyond with everyone in North America, with The Handmaid's Tale and Shape of Water, we really came out on top. So it's a really, really big thing for 873 and all the other unions in Toronto.
And we're going back to 127, and then we'll wrap up here with 229.
Hi, congratulations. Mark Williamson, Below the Line. In a way, this is a continuation, I guess, of the first question, but could you talk about some of the sort of the Cold War period aesthetic and the institutional aesthetic that you also used for the design?
Yes, to contrast the sort of romantic notion of her apartment, the late Victorian apartment, Guillermo and I talked about institutional architecture, and we chose brutalist-style architecture, which is very prevalent in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And the reason why we wanted to do it, we wanted heavy contrast with the harsh materials of the concrete, and then we introduced that teal-green color that was very, very important. It was very important to have that very, very visual contrast between the two worlds. The worlds where she meets her lover, and when she brings him back to that wonderful, decrepit but beautiful old apartment.
And 229.
Hi, I'm Francisco Varela from Telemundo. What was the toughest part of working with Guillermo del Toro?
You know, the really amazing thing about Guillermo is that he knows what he wants visually. So as long as you're in there with him, the guy's with you. Like, he really, you know, once you develop a language with the man, he lets you do your thing and lets you go above and beyond what he sort of has given you as a basic. But no one's more well-read than that man. No one knows more about things than that man. He'll reference everything and give it to you, and then you can go with it.
And he doesn't forget anything.
And he forgets nothing.
Thank you so much,
scary.
gentlemen, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.